Coach Yash is from Surname, and he helped us with understanding some of the most basic level 1 swim coaching concepts and learn to swim. These are things that swim instructors need to know and understand.
Today, we're going to break down the coaching philosophy of Coach Yash Daryanani. It's a method that's not just about building faster swimmers, but about building better people. As Coach Yash himself puts it, his entire philosophy is built around a pyramid. And he makes it crystal clear. If you start with just speed and endless laps, you're basically trying to build that pyramid upside down. It's just going to collapse. It's all about the foundation first. Well, before anyone even thinks about a single stroke, we have to build the base of our pyramid. And in the Goldwater method, that starts with something absolute. The coach's #1 job is to be a protector. And this isn't just some vague idea. It's a very specific 4-step protocol that has to be followed every single day. No exceptions. The coach scans the entire area to make absolutely sure it's safe before a single swimmer even walks onto the deck. Coach Yash learned this lesson the hard way. He tells the story about his first coaching clinic in the US. He shows up 5 minutes early, right, thinking he's on time, and the guy in charge just looks at him and says, "You're late." That one moment, that humbling experience completely changed how he approached coaching forever. Being a protector also means managing the whole environment. That's why the Goldwater method has this really clear boundary with parents. The rule is simple: no talking to the coach during the session. And look, this isn't about being rude. It's about giving 100% of your focus to the kids in the water. Of course, that parent-coach partnership is still super important for everything else, like nutrition and rest. All right, let's move up to the next layer of the pyramid. With that safety net firmly in place, the focus can shift to what we all think of as swimming, crafting absolutely perfect technique in the 4 competitive strokes. For freestyle, this is a big one. It's all about fixing what he calls splash kicking. Coach Yash actually admits that when he was a kid, he was taught to kick as high as possible. But all that splashing, that's just wasted energy, kicking air. The correction is to kick hard, not high, keeping your feet underwater to push water back and move yourself forward. It's all about propulsion. Then there's backstroke. The name of the game here is total head stability. Think of the head like an anchor. If it's moving around side to side, the hips immediately drop, which creates a ton of drag and sends you swimming crooked. A perfectly still head lets you rotate your shoulders powerfully and swim straight. This gets right to the heart of breaststroke. It is all about rhythm. That 4-part sequence: pull, breathe, kick, glide. And the part that so many people rush is the glide. You kill your glide, you kill your momentum. Simple as that. It's also about tightening up that kick, making it narrow and way more explosive. Now for butterfly, probably the most powerful stroke, right? The correction here is so simple, but it's a total game changer. So many swimmers have a wide arm entry, which is like trying to push through a wall of water every single stroke. The fix is a narrow entry, hands hitting the water right in line with the shoulders. It just lets you slice right through, setting you up for a massive, powerful pull. Okay, so we've got this rock-solid foundation of technique. Now what? How do we start building on top of that? How do we start building a real competitor? And this brings us to the big question, the one every coach eventually has to answer. Once a swimmer has the technique down cold, how do you translate all those perfect movements into just raw race day speed? And the answer in the Goldwater method, well, it kind of flips the script on traditional coaching. The philosophy is you don't chase speed with endless laps. Speed is the natural result of clean, efficient, powerful technique. You build a swimmer so well that speed just happens. So what does that mean in practice? Well, it means you're shifting from just teaching strokes to teaching the physics of moving through water. You're focusing on advanced stuff, like reducing drag, mastering what's called the early vertical forearm, which is basically using your whole forearm like a giant paddle. And then you get into detailed race analysis, breaking down every single split, turn, and stroke. And that brings us to the very top of the pyramid. And you'll notice this has nothing to do with biomechanics or split times. This is all about the human connection. It's about the lasting legacy a coach leaves behind. And one of the key tools here is this 3-step positive reinforcement cycle. It's brilliant, really. Here's how it works. First, you correct the technical mistake, but then you immediately praise the swimmer's effort and attitude. Then you correct the mistake a second time, but you frame it for success. It's a way to build confidence while you're still fixing the details. And if you want to see the real-world power of this, Just listen to this story from Coach Yash. He talks about working patiently with this young swimmer who was shy, dyslexic, and wouldn't speak to anyone. 15 years down the road, that same kid is now the official physiotherapist for the team. I mean, what a testament to mentorship. And that story just drives it home, doesn't it? At the end of the day, a coach's job is so much bigger than the pool deck. You're a motivator, a mentor, a leader, and you have to have a strict policy of zero favoritism to make sure every single kid feels seen and valued. So this whole explainer really shows us building something that lasts in the water and in life. And it leaves all of us, whether we're a coach, a teacher, or a parent, with one final thought to chew on. Beyond the skills and the trophies, what kind of pyramid are you really building?
Now let's listen to two public service announcements about swimming instructors from Yash.
I learned that I always have to be way before time at the pool deck to check for the safety of the athletes, have everything prepared for them so that they could come in. So when I left the States and came back to Suriname, I implemented that whole system with my team and my club, where we would walk around the pool deck, check the safety. And that was every day, no fail. So safety and pool management is one of the most important things if you're going to be busy working with children and swimmers. I learned something at a way later stage because coming from where I am, we do not do that. Now, only after 10 years after I've experienced that, there are other teams that have implemented that system into their program where the coaches have to be there early and screen the pool deck. I recommend that everybody focuses on that from the beginning and does the pool safety. One of the most important things as we're teaching kids, we tend to pay attention to a lot of swimmers. So if you have a big group, or once you turn your back towards one and you're talking to three, that is pretty dangerous. So we always have them all together, and then only we explain what's right and what's wrong, talk about the technique. So all the swimmers get to hear what's the right technique, but do not explain it to just one little kid and you have the other one swimming. So we recommend that all the swimmers head back so that they all listen to what needs to be corrected. In that case, everybody's safe. You get an eye on all the swimmers, and all the swimmers will be looking back at you.
Now you're going to be treated to the entire 1 hour seminar from Coach Yash of Surname.
We would like to welcome Coach from Suriname, Coach Yash to be the one to introduce himself. We would like to give the floor to our speaker, Coach Yash. And
Yes.
we do have our co-host here from USA, Coach Mark Rodriguez. Coach Yash, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is
Good.
Yash Daryanani, and I'm from Suriname. Born in India, but grew up in Suriname. Started at the age of 4 with swimming, and by the age of 20, I started coaching. At the age of 28, I was actually already head coach the national team. Went to the Olympics in 2016 and one in Japan. Besides that, I've been coaching swimming teams in Suriname, but traveling all around the Caribbean region and working with small teams, even big teams, and the national teams to help them develop swimming sport. For the rest, I have my own Goldwater Sports International, where we host clinics in different islands and all that stuff. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you. That looks really good. Thanks for this help.
You're very welcome.
All right. Okay, so I think I can start with the course. Level 1, this is based off Goldwater Sports is level 1. This is the things we do. Of course, every coach in the world has their own ways of doing things, and I love to have interaction with coaches, especially the young ones or anybody advanced, where we can learn from each other because not everybody has all the information. So what I've done in my 23 years of coaching, it's all the data put together And these are some of the things I've done with Goldwater. So I will start off with level one. The coaching philosophy, what we have is discipline, patience, individual attention. As a coach, I always feel if you are disciplined to be there on time and you are disciplined to write your own programs, you need to be prepared as you're walking up to the pool deck, which will also have a roll off effect on the swimmers as well. And they will also be having some discipline, being there on time. You don't have to repeat it by saying you're 5 minutes late. Guys, be on time, be on time. So if you are the example, they'll be on time. So discipline has always been there. Patience, working with children and swimmers. You need to have a lot of patience because you have swimmers in different types. Swimmers that come in having a bad day. Maybe you will have a bad day as well. But when you're as a coach, you can't be going with your personal issues to pool deck. So patience is one of the things because even if you have a bad day and the kids do not listen, you need to have the patience as well. And there are different types of swimmers who you work with. Children who tend to listen to everything, and then children who are actually their minds wander off while you're explaining. And individual attention, that's really important. You're working with a team, but again, if I bring back the word patience, some of the children do not listen while you're explaining. So sometimes you need to give individual attention to some of the athletes. So that's one of the things we've been working with for years, and all the trainers that join in with Goldwater, we work with the first rules by doing that. Focus, create confident swimmers with correct fundamentals. As you can hear, fundamentals, we have the word fun in it. So a lot of children, when they start this learn to swim program going into competitive swimming, it's not fun at a certain point. It's a lot of work. But if you're going to start with 10 and unders, I think you need to put the fun in it. And that's really important. I do have a question though. If you, or at least something to say, if you have any questions, please throw it into the chat group and I will answer it for sure. And feel free. I'm open to all questions. Okay, with that being said, create confident swimmers with correct fundamentals. That means if we're going to have children join in swim training, we're always going to start with the fundamentals, and that is teaching them the right techniques, teaching them how to do proper kicks, teaching them how to do a perfect arm stroke, but we add the fun to it. We do not start with racing, and we have these fun competitions, but we do not train them with meters and kilometers and all that stuff because they're too young to do that. So if you create the right techniques and the fundamentals, in the long run, you have confident swimmers who know what to do when they're in the pool. Motivating a coach role, motivator, mentor, protector, leader. You have to motivate not only your swimmers, but your staff, your coaching staff as well. Because if they're not motivated, they will not help the children the right way. And if the children are not motivated, they do not get the results, and we lose them pretty fast as swimmers. Mentoring, you're a mentor, so you'll always have to be up to date and you got to mentor these kids, protect them from injuries, protect them from, you're like a parent at pool deck. You're like a parent, you're a brother. Most of you will see that the kids come up to you and talk about a lot of other stuff besides swimming sometimes. And it's how you talk to them and understand them. You build that certain bond with these swimmers, which makes it easier for you as a coach. However, don't make it too friendly. You need to be the leader who's going to tell them what the goals are and where you're going to be heading to in their swimming careers as well. So this is the introduction to Goldwater coaching. This is how we work. If you guys have any questions, please throw it out there so we can move on. But I'm always there to answer those questions. That would be safety and pool management. Pre-session safety check. Check water clarity, chlorine smell, sharp tiles. We would not want to have children at pool deck running around and their sharp towels, they'll get injured. Again, you are the protector. You're going to have to protect them from getting injured as well. Emergency preparedness. No emergency exits, first aid, and CPR. Pool organization. Organize the pool so every swimmer feels safe. Shadowing technique, never leave beginners out of sight. That means always the children who are beginners at swimming, always keep your eyes on them and never turn your back towards the swimmer. As a matter of fact, that is one of the most important things as we're teaching kids. We tend to pay attention to a lot of swimmers. So if you have a big group, or once you turn your back towards one and you're talking to three, that is pretty dangerous. So we always have them all together, and then only we explain what's right and what's wrong, talk about the technique. So all the swimmers get to hear what's the right technique, but do not explain it to just one little kid and you have the other one swimming. So we recommend that all the swimmers head back so that they all listen to what needs to be corrected. In that case, everybody's safe. You get an eye on all the swimmers, and all the swimmers will be looking back at you. I see something in the chat here. Hold on a second. All right. Okay, no, that was not it. All right. Boundaries, parent coach boundary, and rules. So before I continue to that, I would give you a story and something that I had to experience when I did my first coaching clinic in the USA. And I was invited by a group of international businessmen who were interested in having a clinic for international athletes in Fort Lauderdale 2013. And I come from South America where things were, and this was my first clinic ever in the USA. So I reached there, I go to the pool deck, and the clinic was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. So I arrived at 5 to 9, thinking I was there on time. Out comes this guy and he says, "You're late." So to me, coming from Suriname, 5 to 9 was always a thing of the coaches being there. And the swimmers would be there and we just start. We tell the swimmers what to do and we would start. So it's 5 past 9, we would start with the sessions. However, what happened in that situation is that this guy in the States walks up to me and tells me, "You're late, and this is not how we work." And I was like, "I'm on time, and I don't think I did anything wrong." And he goes, "Yes, it's pretty wrong, and I don't think you know how it works out here, and I don't know how they work in your country." And he explains to me that a coach is supposed to be there 45 minutes or 40 minutes prior to the start of his session. And I did ask him, "What's the reason? Why should I be here so early?" And he goes, "You have to check the pool, walk around the pool, see to it that the kickboards, the pool boys, and the equipment are all outside for the swimmers. 15 minutes prior to your session, you explain to them what to do. They stretch and get in. They start with a warm up." So in that, I learned that I always have to be way before time at the pool deck to check for the safety of the athletes, have everything prepared for them so that they could come in. So when I left the States and came back to Suriname, I implemented that whole system with my team and my club, where we would walk around the pool deck, check the safety. And that was every day, no fail. So safety and pool management is one of the most important things if you're going to be busy working with children and swimmers. So I learned something at a way later stage because coming from where I am, we do not do that. Now, only after 10 years after I've experienced that, there are other teams that have implemented that system into their program where the coaches have to be there early and screen the pool deck. 1 month or 1 day is too late. So I recommend that everybody focuses on that from the beginning and does the pool safety. All right. So any questions about safety and pool management, feel free. Boundaries, parent coach boundaries and rules. A lot of places in the world have rules such as no parents at pool deck. Here in Suriname, we're pretty small. We have parents at pool deck because they're private clubs and the children swim at our club, pretty close. So it's like a private club. While they're training, the parents are sitting there and watching. What we do have, or what we had, was that parents would walk up to us during the sessions and talk to us about what they felt about the training, why their child wasn't practicing freestyle, why they were doing something else. And that was happening during the sessions. And we felt at a certain point that was taking a lot of our time during the sessions and we were not focusing on the kids. So we have this policy now that the parents are not allowed to talk to us during the sessions. It is before or after. A parent is allowed to know everything about their child, but since they leave the session or after the sessions, they go back home. So before and after, they're always home. So always have the boundaries and rules set straight for your team and how you communicate to the parents. Can't be arrogant, can't be rude, can't be rough. Because at the end of the day, you want to have this good relationship with the parent because you're gonna have conversations with the parent, of course, at a certain point of your career and the swimmer's age when he needs extra rest, extra need to check what he's eating. The parents are gonna help you out with that. Always have boundaries and rules, but don't keep it too strict or don't be too rude. There has to be a way of talking to the parents. We will move over to 4, teaching fundamentals, water acclimatation, comfort, balance, breath control, games for confidence. So if we're going to start with pretty young athletes, children who have just moved in, really making them feel comfortable with the sport because they're coming from learn to swim, going into competitive swimming, we are not going to make those children do 30, 40 laps just like that. Believe it or not, approximately 15 to between 15 and 20 years ago, when I was new into the sport as a coach, they used to make 6 years and younger swim 20 laps nonstop and 30 laps nonstop, thinking they were building the endurance of the kid right after learn to swim. And I'm talking about here in Suriname. It never happened anywhere else, I know, but here in Suriname, that's what was happening, which was actually right because you need to teach them, make them feel comfortable, teach them how to breathe during swimming, competitive swimming. So when we say games for confidence, we normally do, for example, we take a kickboard and hand them over kickboards and we tell them, let's see who kicks the fastest. Let's see who kicks the fastest, but we do not want to hear the splashing of the water. Who can jump the furthest from diving blocks? Who can hold the breath for the longest? And then all that's just fun stuff. And that's how we, after a while, changed it. And all that, again, I learned as I was growing into the sport because I was taught by my seniors, the more they swim, the faster they go in after a while. But we don't do it with the 10 and unders. It's fundamentals. We're bringing those words back again. Floating skills, back float progression, assisted, starfish, glide, front float progression. Now, kicking, floating skills, we're gonna have to do. We normally, sorry, not kicking, floating skills, back float progression. So we tend to, for some of the kids who are in the pool, we want to see their position, and we have we work with a lot of kickboards at a certain point, and especially with the ones who are doing the freestyle, we check, for example, what they need and what they have to do. Hold on a sec. Let's see. Is there a question here? Sorry. Hold on a sec, please. I see here Hannah. Hannah, okay, doing too many laps is discouraged, I believe, because children as beginners don't have the stamina yet. Coach, yes, correct. They're brand new to the sport. I wouldn't recommend them doing 20 and 30 laps. Those mistakes, and I'm talking out of experience because I made those mistakes. It took me, and today when I see coaches doing that, I talk to them. It's not encouraging at all. Having them come from learn to swim and they want to grow into the sport, and you tell them 30 laps, 40 laps, you think you're building the stamina, but you haven't even worked on the techniques yet. So consider this as a pyramid. Hope you guys can see me. I'm not even very good to that pyramid, right? Now, the fundamentals, the pyramid, the lower part, the base of the pyramid has to be strong. I've never seen a pyramid like this upside down. It will topple off, right? So you need the right techniques. And that's one of the things in swimming. It's like, you remember the iceberg drawing where they had the iceberg is similar like the pyramid design that I always talk about to the coaches. And that is, you need to have a good foundation to reach the top. If you are going to start upside down by sprinting and laps and without the techniques and the right fundamentals, we'll fail. We all fail. And trust me, I failed as a coach when I was young. I said it at the age of 20. And that was branching out from competitive swimming, going into coaching. But I used what I was doing for the young kids. Luckily, I didn't get anybody injured at that age. But as I was growing into the sport, I learned that that's not the right way. So today I'm going to be talking about mostly like what I did as well, so I could kind of help you guys out. So those are one of the things I like to do. I always compare with back then and now. All right. So I hope that answered your question, Hannah. Um, Sorry, I see a Apollo. Do you also introduce basic strength and conditioning to them in building a foundation? So here's the thing. There's a lot of contradiction on that. That's a good question, Paulo. I myself, as a coach, for 10 and unders, we do agility sets, right? So coordination sets. We tend to, there's a set, what I did, I loved it. I learned it from, I hope you know the name, Ranomi Kromowidjojo. She's a Holland, from the Holland, Olympian medalist. And she came down to Suriname once because her parents are, or one of her parents are from Suriname. So we were sitting down and she told me that what she did with some of the young kids is that she used to tell these kids of 10 and under, stand straight and close your eyes and lift your arms up sideways like this and then bring it back down. So visualizing, and then suddenly she says, do the same thing, but now lift your right leg up. And you would see some of the kids just tilt. So these things are good, visualizing agility sets, small jump ropes, but we don't, well, at least I don't like to promote um, push ups, sit ups, all those things for 10 and unders. That is a big no for me. For me, it is just small agility sets, coordination sets, how to move your legs. That's what I do on dry land, other 10 and under. Of course, there are many coaches in the world with different strategies and approaches, but this is how I do it. It's been successful so far, and I hope that's an answer for your question. Breathing skills, bubble, rhythm, diaphragm activation drills. So, a lot of swimmers, I'm not sure if you have experienced it, a lot of swimmers tend to breathe in through their mouth and exhale through their mouth. And we have to teach them how to breathe as well. So it's nose. We Some of the young ones don't do it unless it's literally blocked. So we teach them those things as well. So it's again fundamentals. We teach them that. We have the drills, putting the head down, kicking, kick sets, and then combining kicks with breathing. So those things are really important. Um, Drills can be done anyway. You have multiple drills. Of course, for breathing, we start outside first by teaching them inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The older they get, we do these uh, exercises for older kids, which is different from the younger ones, but that's more for mental coaching and how to control their breath in swimming. But that's the older they get. However, for the younger ones, we just try to teach them how to inhale, exhale the right way. And we do that out of the pool first, then in the pool, and then we do it as a drill, doing it with kickboards, swimming with kicks, and inhale, exhale. Kicking skills, straight leg kick, kickboard or no kickboard method. Um, as Goldwater, we tend not to use the kickboard. Uh, and if I do use the kickboard, I use the kickboard in a different way by holding it as a tombstone position. So consider my mobile as the kickboard. We hold it up like this in the center, and then we let them kick to make the kicks a little bit stronger. So they need to kick harder. Otherwise, we keep them in the streamline position so that the kids learn how to do the streamline properly. Sometimes what we do is we have the kids get out of the pool, or prior to swimming or getting into the pool, we have them in a streamline position, standing out of the pool, tiptoe walking around the pool in that streamline position. And then when we get them in the pool, we have them do the streamline freestyle kick. So we have them work with that style so that they learn that we have to stay in streamline. So that's one of the reasons why we don't use kickboards. But as a coach, you're free to use kickboards, and you can do any set you want. I personally use kickboards just for in the tombstone position to make the legs stronger. I won't recommend it for 10 and unders because that's pretty tough. Vertical kicking for fast learning, that is really good. Trust me, it's also good for the ankles. A lot of children do not have really flexible ankles, and vertical kicking for fast learning is important. As a coach, you need to observe, write down a lot. Um, as you're working with the kids, I have in the beginning, I never actually wrote down anything, but the older I was getting, and the longer I was in the sport, I started taking notes. And then for each swimmer, I have a whole log book where I write down everything and see the progress, see the changes, techniques, body, physique, um, strength, uh, nutrition. I have everything of each athlete. So if you're going to start with the 10 and unders, I would recommend start writing down so you can see the progress as well. And it'll be really beneficial for you as you're growing into the sport with that one specific athlete or athletes. Switching to core alignment, body position, and balance. We have the head alignment, head led alignment, eyes down, hips up. A lot of swimmers tend to have their hips down, so they swim like this, right? And a lot of them, they have a arch back, so it's like this, with their heads up like this. So your hips need to be up so you could have a proper body position. and the eyes down, so you're looking down as you're streamline kicking. So core engagement, tight belly, long spine. Now, a lot of swimmers do not know that there's core engagement in swimming, and you will realize that there are a lot of swimmers that, as they're swimming, they just swim like a snake, or their strokes are really over. They have an overreached, and they are not swimming according to how you want that to be. So, for the with body positioning and balance, you get to arrange and get the swimmer straight. So you have to always look at, where do I start with? Do I start with the head positioning or the legs? So as Goldwater, we tend to work with the legs first to get them in a proper streamlined position. And then from there on out, we take note, and then we continue with body rotation, uh, the core of how they tighten their belly. So those things are what we do. The streamline technique, squeeze the ears, locked elbow. That is, as we're doing the kicks, we keep them in that position. Locked elbows, squeeze the ears. Common fixes, fixing sinking legs and dropped hips. So as I was talking about, dropped hips, and then you have some that have sinking legs where they kick. That is mostly the core engagement, where we try and get them to raise their hips. Goldwater signature drill. Now, these are one of the drills, arrow push glide. I would recommend to use. We is one of the drills. However, we can always have different drills to correct the swimmer depending on which swimmer it is, right? Because different swimmers, and some of them need a different drill to correct. And drills, as you know, is it corrects the stroke. So it doesn't. This drill does not specifically have to work on all the swimmers. It's just one drill we just gave, and it so happened that we used it on swimmers, most of our swimmers, and it worked. But sometimes we get swimmers where we need to use another drill. So I would recommend always observe, always write what is wrong, how do we correct it, and where do we start with. So you could do anything. I mean, if you see, for example, that the swimmer is doing a kick with his head up like this, I don't think you would correct the legs. You would work on the head, right? So always see what's right, what's wrong, and then work from there on out. Freestyle, freestyle foundation, arm recovery and entry, high elbow recovery, relaxed shoulder, fingertip entry, narrow, not wide. Now, one of the things with swimmers, they tend to, a lot of young swimmers, we need to teach them that high elbow, and most of them are just swinging and swimming because they're young, they want to swim fast, they want to win. But we are thinking about the long-term athlete development process, where we need to think of, where will this athlete be in the next few years. So we have to work on the right techniques. And high elbow is the best thing for the swimmer, and get their elbows out with a relaxed shoulder. And I've always been taught that it's not what happens up here, but what happens down there. So if this is relaxed and high elbow, they go as far as possible. But when they catch, they need to catch a lot of water. So once you have the arm recovery and entry, we go to B, that's the catch phase, early vertical forearm, paddle hand technique. So the paddle hand technique is very important, as you will need to catch a lot of water. The C shape, C, that's the pull and finish. The S shaped pull avoided for beginners. Push past the hip. Now, as we're swimming, we need to do the right technique. Again, this is what Goldwater has been working with and been doing. But every swimmer has a different body, like their physique, their shape, their size, and you're gonna have to write down everything, because This is based on approximately, Goldwater has had, since 2013, we've had more than 600 athletes, swimmers that have started young and then moving out to the States or Holland or Honduras, you name it, and they continue swimming over there. And each athlete is different, but we have had athletes who have done similar and the same problems uh, with the stroke. So this is based on an average of the same amount of swimmers, let's say 300, 400 with the same problem, and we just work with it. So again, write down everything you do with a swimmer and who you are working with, because your coaching staff should work with the same techniques and the style. And of course, as you're working with the technical staff, you all need to communicate and know exactly what you're doing. You all have to be on one line as you're teaching the right techniques. You couldn't be, Coach A couldn't be saying B and Coach B couldn't be saying C, right? So that's not good for a child. It will be really bad for an athlete to continue. Okay, sorry about that. Breathing, one eye breathing, three strokes rhythm drill. As we're breathing, we tend to teach the kids breathe every three strokes, but there's a lot of discussion about this. We have the breathe every three strokes, 5, 7, and lately everybody's been breathing every stroke, as they say that breathing every stroke is really important. Um, this is based off, for me, swimmers who were doing 200 meters um, back then. And we felt by them breathing every three strokes, they were having a proper rhythm, proper stroke count, body was aligned, and we kind of stuck to that three-stroke rhythm drill. And but nowadays things have changed. Swimmers have changed. You will experience that as well, and you will have to um, see what's best for the child. Again, I'm telling you, I'm basing this off our studies and what we have done with the kids. Kicking in freestyle, 2 beat, 4 beat, 6 beat kick explanation. Um, Again, as you're working with the kids, when I used to work with the kids when I first started, I told them I want a continuous kick. I don't want any child or any swimmer to stop kicking. So we had some swimmers who had those lazy kicks, one kick, swinging with the body left, right, and we, after a while, decided we're going to work with what everybody does: the 2 beat kick, 4 beat kick, 6 beat kick. So every six, they're working with a stroke rate, and then we just switched over to continuous kick. So we have these sets where we call it social kicking time. That's the only time I allow the swimmers to communicate during talk during the training. And when I say social kicking, I think that's the happiest time of their life. They all take the kickboards and head out kicking nonstop, but they're talking to each other. So it one gives them the fun in it. They're enjoying that part because they get to talk, enjoy. That's the only time during the session they can talk about what they did in school or anything else. Um, and as we go back to the main sets, we see to it that they implement those kicks into the main sets, right? That's how we have done the kicking. If any questions, feel free. I'm here and I will answer your questions. Backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly foundations. Backstroke, the head stability, eyes up, still head. Hip alignment, straight arm, entry at shoulder line, fast backstroke kick mechanics, and Goldwater drill is bucket kick backstroke. Well, that is one of the drills. Backstroke used to be, when I was a swimmer, that used to be my favorite stroke. Honestly, most of the swimmers love that stroke because that's the only time their head is out of the water and they can breathe continuously like that and move their head around. However, that spoils the technique. One of the drills I did like as a swimmer was hand out and then rotate it like this and then back in. So thumb out, kind of like a wave, and the pinky goes in. Um, when I grew a little bit older, I took a challenge to do this. There's this meet in Suriname where we have 60 laps. So I decided to do 60 laps backstroke by the age of 13, 14. Yeah, I was 13 years old when I did the 60 laps. And I did those 60 laps only on backstroke. And that was when I realized that while finishing that whole race, I think with a time of, I think, 21 minutes, I realized that in backstroke, or whoever thinks backstroke is the easiest, that was the time I realized backstroke is not the easiest stroke. Shoulder rotation, core stability, legs, back, neck, right? So if you keep swinging with your head, you go off the rhythm. So I felt, for me, backstroke was one of my favorite, but also one of the difficult ones. Um, so head stability, always. You have to always keep in mind that once they start moving the head or they have that bouncy effect in backstroke, then I used to start with the legs when they have that bouncy effect. With the head, we tend to, I used to keep the swimmer who used to move his head left and right. I used to keep them to the closest, the lane 1 or lane 5, because we have a 5-lane pool. I used to keep them in lane 1 and I used to put my hand on top and I used to tell him, just watch my hand and swim along. So I used to walk with the kid by holding my hand, and his eyes were focused on my hand as I was walking on the side of the pool, and he used to swim backstroke. So that was one way to keep the swimmer's head steady instead of him moving his head left and right. Of course, you as a coach could come up with any other idea and think about how you could keep them swimming straight or not having them move their head or bobble their head. Straight arm entry at shoulder line. So a lot of swimmers tend to have an overreach. So you need to correct that. For that, you have specific drills, arm out, have it go in, but not an overreach. What we do as coaches, we tend to record the swimmers so that they could visualize what we're seeing, and then we show them. So we have a once a week technique, or a technique session where we record them and show them, and then we show them what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, because you cannot always tell them they're wrong. So we show them both. This is correct, this is incorrect, and this is what we can do much better. So maybe that works for you as well as a coach. Breaststroke, body wave introduction, glide importance, pull, breathe, kick, glide rhythm. Sculling basics, narrow kick versus wide kick correction. Now, I'm going to start from down, then narrow kick versus wide kick correction. There are a lot of kids who kick wide, a lot of kids that kick narrow. We had a discussion this morning right prior to this session. I had a discussion with the coach, and he wanted to use a pull boy to correct the kick by making it a narrow kick. And I wanted to see how he was going to implement it, because I have a policy. If I'm working with a coaching staff, I also want to see what they want to show me and introduce. And if it works, it works. So he told me that the kid had not such a great breaststroke kick, so he wanted to use the pull buoy to make it a narrow kick, small kick. Somehow it looked good, but then it was just a kick. That was he was trying to correct. However, the swimmer was his breakout, his exit of the water was pretty high. So then we go into the body wave introduction. The swimmer was swimming up like this and down, up and down. So he was correcting the feet while the swimmer was going up. So making this narrow, and the swimmer was swimming this high out of the water. So those were the things where if you're correcting one thing, you need to see you need to see also what's the next step. So we were trying to get the wave movement and the wave movement. So now he has homework and he has to correct this swimmer. So after I'm done from here with this whole session, he has to show me a recorded version of what he's done where the swimmer has a different breaststroke. It's a lot of work, and it's again, as a coach, you're working and you're working on all details and just not one detail. So again, they tried to change the kick from a wide kick to a narrow kick, but then they did not focus on the body positioning. So they need to have the body up and forward, but then they were not having that wave movement, which actually does not make any sense when you're going to have such a narrow kick. A lot of coaches tend to overlook certain issues on backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, body undulating, kick timing, kick pull rhythm, wide arm entry avoided. Goldwater drill is one arm plus one kick combo. Well, that is one of the kicks. So another drill we have created is three dolphin kicks underwater, exit one arm stroke, and then the second, as you're doing the second one, go back, enter in three dolphins underwater. So we love doing that with the kids because they then tend to work on their one, dolphin kicks, two, on their stroke, and three, on their catch. So we like to do that. We're working on all of them and also on the lung capacity because if you're going to do that 50 meters or 50, in a 50-meter pool, it's one whole lap with three dolphin kicks, one whole stroke, back underwater, three dolphin kicks. So we do that. And another one is for the kids who tend to do butterfly with their elbows in first. It enters first, which is not allowed. We tend to do a clapping drill. We make them exit as high as possible, clap, and just enter. So that is one of the things we do for butterfly to get them to have a proper entry. The rhythm of the butterfly, the kick timing, the kick pull rhythm. Trust me, not all the swimmers get it in one shot. It's a lot of practice, a lot of dolphin kicks, and you will be able to get them to do it. Again, what we also do is make them see their videos, and we show them videos of other swimmers. And that's one of the things that has helped us a lot by having movie days or um, world championship videos on YouTube. We just produce that and we have them look at those videos and we try to instantly stop and pause certain areas and we explain it to them and they get to see these things. Progressions and corrections. Most common beginner mistakes, head popping. Like I said, you have that with the backstroke. In the freestyle, they move with the head. You have that in the breaststroke when they exit, inhale, bend knees and kicking. A lot of young kids tend to kick with their knees. They kick with their knees. That is one of the mistakes. Stiff ankles, as I said, a lot of young swimmers, a lot of swimmers have stiff ankles. It's easy to correct. Fins help a little bit. A lot of stretches work as well, the older they get. Short strokes, a lot of swimmers, not only do they not have high elbow, they tend to just enter here and catch. So short strokes and splash kicking. So when we were young, our coach used to say, um, imagine eating a lot of pepper and you're gonna kick hard. So what we used to do, we just, that was a fun thing he would say, but he used to say kick hard and kick high as possible. So a lot of swimmers, we all used to kick with our feet out of the water, splashing as much as possible. But we never realized that the more we were splashing, the more air we were kicking instead of kicking underwater. So I only learned that when I became a coach. So when I used to swim, what they used to teach us, like splash and kick as high as possible, not as hard as possible, but as high as possible. So we made those mistakes by kicking high out of the water and not literally hard. And again, I learned something from swimming, going into coaching, and today we tend to have the kids not kick high, but really kick hard and move their have ankle flexibility, work from the core, hips, and kick. So that is one of the mistakes you see with the kids. Correction methods, hands-on correction, safe and professional, visual demonstration, slow motion teaching, using, sorry, analogies. One thing about slow motion teaching, I also do mirror teaching. So I tend to be a mirror and have the swimmer in front of me. And I tell the swimmer, um, no, I'm not the mirror, sorry, correction. I'm the swimmer and they're the mirror. So they have to mirror me. So I slowly move my arms, and the swimmer has to slowly move their arms according to how I am doing it. And once you see that mistake, you tell him to stay in that position, him or her, stay in that position, and then show them your arm and let them look at their arm. And then they will see that they're not doing the same effect or same movement like you are, because they're supposed to be the mirror. So I myself like to do the mirror training. Slow motion teaching is good, but I feel I have more effect on lately, more results on the mirror training as well. So I would recommend that if you haven't done it yet, try it out. It's pretty good. Session structures or structure, a 60-minute example, 10-minute warm up, mobility plus water confidence. You'll have a 15-minute kicking foundation, a 20-minute technique learning, stroke of the day. Of course, we have a program set out for our kids, and we have the kids in before we start. Let me put it this way: before we start, we discuss with the kids what we're going to do, and that happens mostly while we're stretching and all that stuff. And once we start, we add in the foundation, the kicking foundation, the 20-minute learning techniques. We have a stroke of the day, and then we work with that. So sometimes you can have 2 days with the same stroke and then switch over to the next stroke the next day, but have a refresher. Like always bring back the stroke that you've done so that they do not forget the techniques you've been working on. A 10-minute drill progression. So you have the progression drills done, and 5-minute evaluation. Out, of course, when they have questions or if you need to explain something extra, because you're working with a team and not with one swimmer. So sometimes you need to evaluate 2 or 3 swimmers. This is what a 60-minute session would look like with us. However, these would be the 10 and unders. Um, the older they get, the longer the session. Sometimes there will be 10-year-olds who are really good enough to be swimming with the 11 and up, 11, 12-year-olds, but we do not make them go beyond 1 hour and 20 minutes max. Once we see they have that potential, we keep it to 1 hour and 20 minutes max. Communication, motivation, and ethics. Positive reinforcement structure. Correct, encourage, and correct. Sorry. Goldwater phrases that work with kids, keeping parents' expectations realistic. Special approach for shy swimmers. Now, um, I used to have a swimmer. I first got him. I had no clue what was wrong with the swimmer, and the parent approached me and said, "I would like my son to learn swimming, uh, training, and become a competitive swimmer." And she said, "But he does not talk much." So I was like, "Sure, don't worry. You could bring him to the pool, and we'll work with him." So the first day he came to the pool deck, he actually did not come up to us. He was waiting approximately 500 meters away from us, and he was sitting alone. And when the training started, he just walked up, changed, dove in, didn't talk to the coaches, nothing. I noticed he did that for one whole week. And then I contacted the parent. I said, "I've noticed that your son stays away from everybody, the whole team, and only when the session starts, he walks on over, puts his bag, clothes, everything, and then dives in and he swims. He does not say a word." So the parent actually never told us he was dyslexic. And it was a form of dyslexia. And he never allowed anybody to touch him, tap him, talk to him. He didn't talk, never wanted anybody to correct him by touching his hands. So it was one of the difficult things. But one of the things, what kept me, I took that as a challenge. And one day I spoke to him and I told him, "I need you to correct your arm." And the fun part is when he did it, he turned back and looked at me and said, "Did I do it good?" And I said, "Yeah, well, you could do it again, and then let's see if you're doing it good again, because you cannot just do it once and say it's perfect." So he did it again, and he then looked at me and said, "What do you think?" So in my head, I was like, he's communicating. For after 2 weeks, I got to hear the boy's voice, and he's communicating. From that, I got to encourage him to come here, come and sit down with the team. Believe it or not, today, and we're talking about 15 years later, he is actually my physiotherapist for the team. And he's at an age where he actually teaches the kids, and if there's something wrong with one of my swimmers, he helps us out. And we encourage the kids to do it the right way, and um, we have to correct them, encourage them. And if I had told him, "Oh no, it's not good, um, you did it wrong," there could have been that was not correcting and not encouraging. So maybe that could have shut him down, and he wouldn't have continued, and I wouldn't have had him as a physiotherapist for the team as well. So it's how you the approach is to your athletes, and what you could do, and in the long run, it worked out. Ethics and coaching behavior. Respect, patience, zero favoritism, managing emotional swimmers, professional boundaries always, how to report concerns within a club. Respect, patience, and zero favoritism. Favoritism is one of the things that really happens. When you have a team of 30 or 40 swimmers and you realize that there's this one swimmer that could be the best in the whole region or the best in the country, the coaches tend to spend a lot of time with that swimmer and correct that one specific swimmer, which actually you're losing your other swimmers to listen to you. They get demotivated, and some of them even quit because there's favoritism. Um, that is one of the things you always have to uh, pay attention to, because it is something that reoccurs. Sometimes I'm not gonna say that I never had a good swimmer and did not pay attention. Yes, but I realized that it has an effect on other swimmers as well, and you might lose a whole team, or sometimes three, four good swimmers because you are focusing only on that one specific swimmer. Managing emotional swimmers. In my eyes, most of the swimmers are emotional because they have their they have their school. Some of them have, believe it or not, nowadays a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Uh, they do not know how to manage school with swimming, and then comes the part where you have a lot of parents that want to force their kids to swim when they love another sport. Now, you have all these things to deal with as a coach as well. And that I could tell you how, but I think you will have to deal with it in your own way, because every parent's different, every swimmer is different. And of course, it's the situations you get, how you handle it with the parents and talk to the parents about it. Professional boundaries always. I remember I had an opportunity to coach in Boston, and I did not take that job, that opportunity, because it in the contract it was written that if you're coaching a female or a male, you are not allowed to touch the athlete, or you would get sued for touching the child. Um, I think that for me was difficult, as I come from a country where we tend to help the kids by holding their hands and elbows. I do have a female coach present at pool deck, so I tend to let her handle the female athletes. Um, and when we're discussing some stuff, I feel that she's in charge of the females and the male coaches of the male swimmers. And always keep it professional. Do not. It's not only about the physical touch or how you talk to that, but also you can't be behaving like a little kid or a young boy or a young female coach talking about your personal life, and it's strictly professional how you walk and talk at the full deck, and how you behave in front of the athletes. How to report concerns within a club. Not sure how your club looks like or what the structure is within the club there. Over here, we have a board, we have a commission. So mostly when something goes wrong, we report into the commission. If the commission's not able to solve it, the board is there to solve our issues. So there is a specific structure how we handle our issues, and I think every team needs to have a specific way of handling situations. Level one was for you guys here attending. I'm not sure if you guys will be attending level two.
So go to substack.com, search for Heavy or Not. It's also available at wafsu.org in the Bygone seminar section. There's a special course. You'll be able to log in and enjoy that seminar for free. That's at wafsu.org. We hope you subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.